Okay, so I did number 3. Hopefully you guys all did it and had a chance to look at it. So I got -1 for my p. I got that it opens left because p is negative. I got my vertex is 2 comma -1. So remember to look at your x's first and then your y's. I got my focus is -3 comma -1. My directrix is x equals -1. Focus width is 4. And my LR endpoints are -3 comma 1 and -3, -3. So you get this graph. Okay, so ask your neighbor if you didn't get this, or if you guys have any questions, ask each other. So let's go look at writing them in standard form. So we're going to have to do completing the square again like we did for circles. So remember our standard form, especially if you're looking at a horizontal, is y minus k squared equals 4p comma x minus h. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to need to do is, you see how all of our y's are on the left side of the equation? So make sure all your squared, let's rewrite that as, we need to get this squared variables So if it's x squared, all the x's to the left side, and if y squared, then all the y's to the right, to the left side of your equation. Okay, so let's look at number 1. So y is being squared, right? So we want to get all the y's over here. So we're going to have y squared minus 4y. So we're kind of grouping those y's, which means we're going to move other non-squared variable to the right side. Okay, so move the non-squared variable to the right side. All right, so in our case, what's not squared is this 4x. So we're going to add 4x to the other side. And so we get a positive 4x. So we're going to need to group y's together. And you're going to complete the square. So CTS, complete the square. So this is where we get this. Y squared minus 4y plus blank equals 4x. And remember, if we added one blank, we have to add another blank to balance out our equations. So remember, now we just complete the square. So how do we complete the square? Well, we take half, remember, half it, so we get -2, square it, add it to both sides. Half it, square it, add it to both sides. Okay, so then we factor. So fourth step, factor. Okay, so on the left side, remember this is just a perfect square trinomial, and that means we can take our shortcut by saying x minus whatever was halved squared equals, okay, so on this side, you're going to have to pull out a GCF. GCF. Okay, so what's the GCF here? hopefully everybody says 4. And then you get x plus 1. And now we've completed the square. So our answer is y minus 2 squared is equal to 4. So remember that's your 4p, comma x plus 1. So could you identify let's see, can you identify your vertex? Well, hopefully you can. Your vertex here would be -1, comma 2. Could you identify your LR or your focus width? Hopefully you could tell me that it is 4. Could you tell me your P? Well, hopefully you can. Hopefully you would say 4P is equal to your LR of 4. Divide by 4 and you get P is 1. So on your assessment on Friday, it's going to ask you to complete the square. It's going to ask you to put in standard form, and then it's going to ask you, okay, what is your LR and what is your P? It might ask you to identify your vertex too. Okay, so that's if it was a horizontal. So what if it was a vertical parabola? Okay, we do the exact same things, except you need to identify what's being squared. So if your x's are being squared, they're going to be on your left side of the equation, because remember, all of our standard form, whatever was squared was on the left, and whatever was not squared was on the right. So we're going to leave the x's this time on the left side because that's what's being squared, and we're going to move everything else over. So we would need to move this 10y over and this 1. So you get a plus 10y plus 1. Now we can set up our shell to be able to complete the square. So complete the square. So we get x squared minus 6x plus blank equals 10y plus 1 plus blank. Remember, we got to add the blanks to both sides. So we're going to half it. So we get -3. Square it. We get 9. And we're going to add it to both sides. Okay? So remember, our shortcut on factoring would be take the halved squared is equal to, okay, this time we're going to need to add these together. So we get 10y plus, add them together, you get 10. And now we can factor this. So factor a GCF. So when we factor a GCF, we can say x minus 3 squared is equal to, well, we can take a 10 out of there. And then you're left with y plus 1. And then we've converted to standard form. Okay, so we're done with notes today. So if we have time left in class, you guys need to start working on your homework.